I'm in a movement.
Good evening and welcome to Community Crossfire. I am your host for this evening, Wayna Dobson, and I am, as always, I'm excited to have my first guest here this evening. He is not a stranger to the city of Wilmington, probably nor to the state of Delaware, and that is none other than Brother Dwight Davis. Welcome to
Thank you
the
very
show.
much, Sister Wayne.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you very much.
You're welcome. And you have Brother Lacey here with you
Yes.
as well. That's okay. So we're going to talk about pardons. You have a workshop coming up.
We have a workshop coming up, and I really want to thank Storm and Norman and yourself for giving us this opportunity to come on. We watch the program, and it's very informative. We know that a lot of people watch. What we're trying to do is to get the word out that on January the 26th, 2013, at the Muslim Center of Wilmington, 2102 Northeast Boulevard, we are hosting a citywide Pardon of Innocence workshop. And, I am the contact person, Brother Dwight L. Davis. I am the administrator of the Motivational Center's Pardon Assistance Program and have been for close to the last 15 years. So we're here to talk about that, and we really want to get into the necessity and the need for it. As you very well know, Mayor Dennis Williams has really talked about reaching out to ex-offenders and those individuals who have obstacles to employment centered around criminal histories, reducing crime, et cetera, et cetera. We believe that we have what we call the cornerstone to addressing with measurable outcomes the problems of crime relative to our city and the ex-offender.
Okay. And Kirk, what part do you play in this?
Well, I basically assist Brother Dwight because we believe that the criminal history it serves as an impediment to employment for a lot of guys out here who don't have any hope, who are discouraged when they go apply for jobs. They always get turned down for whatever reason, and it's a huge problem in the city and throughout the state for that matter. There's a disproportionate number of young black males and females in the state of Delaware that have criminal history, who suffer as a result of the criminal history.
And we want to say that the United States Constitution says that slavery nor involuntary servitude shall not exist except if you've been duly convicted in the court of law. So that tells us when you look at the prison industrial complex, you might have 5, 6, 7,000 individuals under level 5 incarceration, but you also have people that are on probation and parole. So when you begin to aggregate those numbers, you're talking about a significant amount of individuals where in the city of Wilmington we may contribute 50 to 60% of that overall population. So on our street corners, you have young men and young women who see themselves as it being hopeless for them to be able to acquire a job because of their past criminal histories. Now, it's my firm belief that, as I mentioned, the Constitution did not require that you be labeled a criminal for the rest of your life. It's like you're being given a life sentence. And what a lot of our parents don't understand, with HB 85, where it's required that even in elementary schools, that in some instances you have to report your children, your elementary school children, to law enforcement, that in fact they receive criminal histories as early as 7 and 8 years old.
Wait a minute. I want to understand. The adult, the parent,
Right.
has to notify the school of what they have done.
The school has to notify the parent, For example, just recently, within the last month, the Department of Education, the Office of Civil Rights, came out with a consent decree, and they determined that 5 city schools were disproportionately suspending and expelling elementary school students in Bancroft and Stubbs and Pulaski and et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of those expulsions were in fact required the contact of law enforcement. So where law enforcement is involved, then it creates a record for the elementary school child. So a lot of the parents don't realize that this is not private information, that your child as young as 7 or 8 could very well have a criminal history. So this criminal history follows them throughout their entire life. And so what happens is when they get to high school and they begin to get arrested for different types of things, probation results, then this criminal history is building up. And so they need to know that there are some remedies to correct these types of, I call it, injustices. Because you want to say something about that?
And also I'd like to add that a lot of people don't know you don't have to necessarily be handcuffed.
Right.
Once you're processed, that leads to a criminal history. And when you go check your SBI down at the Delaware State Police, when you're going
Now
to
do me a favor, because you two are familiar with
The terminology.
The terminology.
Right,
so
right,
some of the viewing
well,
audience
the
may
SBI
not be.
is the State Bureau of Identification. That is
Okay.
the arm of the state police that's charged with the responsibility to run your criminal history.
Right.
They do state checks and also they do national checks. But oftentimes when folks go down there, they don't even know some of that stuff may be on their records because no
Right.
one has checked. So it's very important
Right.
that they understand that process.
And over the last couple of years, we reached out to Governor Markell, and what we said is that there needs to be reform within the Delaware Justice Criminal Information System. For an example, if you were sentenced and convicted of a crime and you served your time, why should that continue to be on your record? It should be off your record. It should be an automatic expungement, but it's not an automatic expungement. So what we've been doing is helping individuals to file petitions that go before the Delaware Board of Pardons. Now, the Delaware Board of Pardons is a constitutionally mandated commission. There are 5 distinct individuals. You have the Lieutenant Governor, you have the Secretary of State, State Treasurer, State Auditor, and the Chancellor of the Court of Chancery. Now, we call the State Auditor, the State Treasurer, we call those Benjamin people.
Okay.
They're the Benjamins because they are involved with money. So if you owe a fine or have to pay restitution, they're concerned that you pay back this restitution, pay back these fines before you are given the opportunity for pardon. Because when you look at Delaware is the corporate capital of the world. Being the corporate capital of the world, they have to mitigate the risk to Delaware businesses. In other words, they want to make sure that they're hiring someone that is not going to cause them to have a problem.
Now, I did some research on pardons since I knew that you were going to be the guest on this evening. And one of the things, I guess the question is, I wanted to clarify it for the audience, is you cannot receive a pardon until, one, you've completed your sentence, whether it's a sentence or probation.
That's correct.
But how many years is it?
Well, there is no written set amount of years. As soon as you complete your sentence, you can apply for a pardon. But the Board of Pardons looks for, depending upon the charge, the amount of time between the last conviction.
Okay.
So if you're applying for a pardon for something like having a dog that's not leashed, and that is a criminal charge, or catching a weak fish, that's a criminal charge. Those are charges that people actually go before the Board of Pardons to get removed. So it's not the serious charges exclusively. So now, for example, there are some charges you can't get a pardon for: first-degree murder and first-degree rape and things of this nature. These are not pardonable offenses necessarily.
Okay.
Infamous crimes.
They're infamous crimes, but there have been cases where an individual has received a commutation of sentence. Now, I'll give you a good example of that. If in fact, a lot of those that are incarcerated are not incarcerated for violent crimes. They're incarcerated for drug offenses, et cetera, et cetera. And so you have people that are serving 10, 15 years mandatory for non-violent crimes. So there is a commutation process. We let individuals know that don't give up hope, that if you're incarcerated and you abide by all the programs, the rules and regulations, and there could come a time when you could say to the governor or to the Board of Pardons, I'm rehabilitated. I believe that I'm rehabilitated and I'm applying for a commutation of sentence. So that gives the governor the discretion and the board the discretion to say, all right, you got 15 years mandatory, you've been in jail 10 of those, then I think that we could commute your sentence. So there are different ways to be released from incarceration after your sentence.
Okay. One of the other things that I read was that even though you've been pardoned, you've said this,
Yes.
that even though your pardon is still on your record.
Absolutely.
But the crazy thing, one of the things that I read how it gets removed is if you're deceased after you're dead 10 years. Mm-hmm. Like, why do you need it off then?
Looking back at what I said earlier about the SBI and the necessary reform. For an example, if an individual received a governor's pardon, when you pull the criminal background check on that person, the word pardon is so small on the document that a person may not even know that you were pardoned for it. Now, what is this about? See, and
it's
so
like the fine print down the bottom.
It's almost like a fine print.
Okay.
And so, what I believe that it's about is that there is a criminal justice, a prison industrial complex, and they have to have continuous bodies. I know there are those that may take exception to what I'm saying and disagree, but nonetheless, they're not going to say it out loud because when you look at Smyrna prison, for an example, if the population of Smyrna is, say, 20,000 people, and I'm talking about Smyrna municipal government.
Okay.
Then when you look at the prison, it's, say, 7,000 individuals. When they go to the federal government and request their allotment of federal dollars, their dollars are allotted based upon the prison population.
Wow.
So the prison population is added to the municipal population. And so if we're spending $50,000 a head, now how is that $50,000 spent? It's spent to the extent that there is a profit. There's a substantial profit that the investors receive, especially in private prisons. On Wall Street, there are private prisons that are trading on Wall Street. And what's the commodity? The commodity is human bodies. The commodity is individuals that are from the inner cities that is being disproportionately suspended from school, that results in them having idle time and ending up in the criminal justice system. And our plan, this citywide Pardon of Innocence program, is designed to begin to address those issues head on. It's not fair to keep spending millions and millions of dollars, and then what you asked me earlier about, well, what is your success rate, right? Well, let's look at the programs that have been receiving the millions of dollars. Let's look at the Hope Commission that's been receiving millions of dollars every year. Who asked them what their success rate is in terms of working to reduce and address crime? We're not a government-funded agency. Let's be clear about that. We're not a government-funded agency, and so that we don't have to play the numbers game in order to qualify for refunding. But there are those that are receiving millions of taxpayer dollars, and no one sees the measurable outcomes.
Right. I wanted to know, one, because when I'm having guests, I kind of want to feel for what they're doing. And I thought that by me asking you for a success story, that would let people know that your program is definitely working and that it is changing people's lives.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to know the impact that it had on the individual's lives.
Well, and let me answer that because first of all, I want to be clear, we're not a social service program. We're not, DHSS. We are an economic empowerment project. The objective is, when you look around the city of Wilmington, you have people who are working in the minority communities who are working at the poverty level.
Most definitely.
Right? So now let's look at increasing household income.
Most
So
definitely.
so if husband or son can't get a job because of their criminal record, then they're going to go out here and commit crimes sometimes. Sometimes they'll find other things to do that might not be necessary above the table. But if we can increase household incomes, we can then take a person, say for example, a family of four that might be making $20,000 a year. If we can bring $15,000 more into that household, we make them then eligible to maybe be able to buy a home.
I agree, because I think just maybe good people sometimes make bad decisions.
Absolutely.
And so that's what happens.
And I think, even further on that matter, a lot of people can't even get a menial job as a cleaning service job because of their criminal history. Or they may work in a bank where they may not handle any money, but the banks don't want them in there.
That's right.
When you look at crime and violence in the city, a lot of fathers are locked up in jail for nonviolent offenses. They can be home, help nurturing their kids and giving them hope and insight and guidance and, just being the father.
Right.
We missing that, and that's why we have crime and violence on our streets. We need to bring to the consciousness of the legislature, the city government, the state and county governments, that this is very important.
That's right.
The disfranchisement of African American males and females in the criminal justice system. We have to take a look at that. It's crazy.
And that's the reason that, so far I'm encouraged by, the plan that Mayor Dennis Williams has put forth. Recently in City Council, they passed his initiative to add certain positions to the mayor's office, and one, I believe, was a workforce development director. The other was a director of the neighborhood planning council, so that we would have a full-time person working to identify jobs, but also working to create opportunities for entrepreneurship.
Right.
Because if you can't qualify for a job, then you might have a good idea and go into business for yourself.
Very true. Is there a cost for the workshop?
No,
It's
the
free.
workshop is free, and what we've been doing. I want to mention Brother Robert Bovell because we can count on Bob Bovell coming and bringing the Dunkin' Donuts and the hot coffee. The Muslim Center of Wilmington we relocated from 6th Street over into the Northeast. And we've been there going on 12 years. And we have been working hand in hand with the Neighborhood Planning Council. As a matter of fact, we received the Muslim Center, that is, not the Motivational Center.
Right.
We received close to $250,000 to retrofit our center. So we got brand new heating, ventilation, air conditioning, HVAC. We really have a really beautiful center that we have hosted. Just last month, we had State Senator Margaret Rose Henry. She was there, Representative Stephanie Bolden, and to the credit of Freeman Williams, Dr. Williams of the Christina School District, he was there immediately after the Department of Education issued the consent decree. He was there offering assistance to those working in the neighborhood. So the month before that, we had Dr. Henry Smith, who is the Deputy Cabinet Secretary for the Department of Health and Social Services. Prior to that, we had our friends over at the Department of Labor under the Workforce Investment Board. So we're not waiting. What we're doing is reaching out to government, whether it's state government, county government, city government, and saying, look, we are willing to partner with you. Mm-hmm. All we need for you to do is, if mother is there and she and little Johnny or Raheem or whatever needs this service, get him up out the bed. We know they don't like to come to things that start 9 o'clock in the morning, but get him out the bed, encourage your son, your husband, or yourself. You might need it. Come to the workshop. It's free.
Right.
And we're going to have professionals there to help you.
Well, I wanna appreciate you because it's giving those that, like I said, just made a bad choice in life.
That's true.
To learn how
That's
they
true.
can do better and get their thing part. And
That's
now
true.
we're gonna take a few phone calls.
Okay.